It's Phil Lindeman, Crystal Media News Director in the studio today, and I'm continuing my series with our profiles on Summit Search and Rescue, the humans of Summit Rescue. And today I've got Kristen Griffin in the studio with me today. Kristen, good to have you here.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Great to have you, and I see that you are ready to go somewhere. Where are you headed off to today?
Yes, after we're done here, Phil, I'm going ice climbing with my husband.
Very cool. Ice climbing, you can't give up any routes, of course, but where's the climbing good here in Summit County, or where are you guys going today in October?
Yeah, today we're going to Three Tiers, or the Shroud. It's along the I-70 corridor, so we're hoping to find some good ice today.
Tell me about your background with ice climbing then. Have you always been an ice climber, or is it something that you kind of like stepped your way up to over time?
Yeah, we got into it about a year and a half ago now. We took an ice climbing class with Ben Butler through CMC. We were really into rock climbing during the summers, but wanted to find ways to climb during the winter time. So we took an ice climbing class, fell in love with it, and we've just been getting into it.
I gotta say, ice climbing, I'm not a big rock climber. I did it a little when I was younger, but ice climbing is one of those sports that seems incredibly intimidating. How did you get over it? Like you said, you fell in love with it. Did you have any intimidation factor with it, or did it seem pretty straightforward as, a climber?
You know, it certainly can get more and more serious and intimidating, but where we started, it was quite mellow. It was really accessible, and I really didn't have any expectation. I didn't know what to expect when we took this class, so I was really open-minded. And aside from having some cold hands and figuring out how to stay warm, it's been great to get into. Yeah,
it's the elements thing. I think it's the other thing that's kept me away from fat biking mostly, because I love biking, but being out in 5-degree weather on a bicycle, I'd rather snowboard.
Yeah, lots of hand warmers, lots of layers, yeah.
Yeah, and when you're out on a route, I guess, what are the sorts of things that you found you enjoy the most about ice climbing compared to being on rock even?
Oh, man, that's a good question. It's just a beautiful way to climb. The water freezes, right? So it's a waterfall that freezes into this big ice fall, and it's just gorgeous. And it's fun to, be chipping away at the ice with your ice axe and finding a good stick. And I think it's just beautiful.
Cool. I might have to give it another go one of these days.
Yeah.
I got a buddy who's always trying to get me to go out and do it, and I always give him some excuse. So maybe next time he calls me, I'll actually have to give it a shot.
Yeah, definitely. Give it a go.
It's also the gear thing that's intimidating. I like traveling light, and so sometimes the thought of bringing all that gear is the thing that also makes me shy away from it. But I guess if you get used to it and you're good at it, you know how to pack.
Absolutely, yeah. You kind of run through the checklist, right? Crampons, ice axe, harness, helmet, eye protection, yep. All the essentials. Yeah.
Well, and that brings me to my next question then. As a rescue team member, not only do you got all the ice climbing gear in the truck right now, you've got your rescue gear in there in case something goes down somewhere. What's in your pack? What's in your go bag for rescue team?
Yeah. We always have our packs at the ready. So we've got lots of different things in there, the essentials, water, food to keep us fueled while we're out on a rescue. Extra layers. I hate being cold, so I'm always carrying extra layers for myself or, our patients or people that need help. Sunscreen, sun protection, all of the, we call them the 10 essentials, emergency shelter, and lots of good stuff in there. The same stuff that you're telling other people to take out with them. Exactly. Yep. We practice what we preach.
That's the beauty of the team, is that you guys are the best of the best at just being outdoors and knowing how to make sure that you don't get into sticky situations. Tell me, how long have you been with the rescue team?
Yeah, so I'm coming up on just over a year.
And what was it that inspired you, first of all, to join the team?
So, my husband Kyle and I took a wilderness first responder class through CMC as well the spring before we applied to join. And that was mostly just to learn some things about how we can stay safe, right, while we're recreating in the backcountry. And I just fell in love with the class, the wilderness medicine, just all of the assessment that goes on during that course and all of the things that you consider, on being safe and mitigating risk while you're outside. And one of the instructors was a member of the rescue group. So I was asking her about, who joins and how do you join and what would that be like? And she was really encouraging that we should apply.
Great. Who is the instructor?
Helen Rowe.
And she's still involved, I'm sure. Yeah.
She is,
okay.
yeah.
I thought I recognized the name. So joined the team, got through all that stuff. Now tell me what it takes to actually join the team. What sort of training do you got to go through, beyond a woofer?
Yeah, so a woofer is not required to join the team, but you express interest. There's an interview day where they essentially run you through different stations just to see how you interact with other people, your problem-solving skills, medical skills if you do have some of that background. And then once we were invited to join, we had 3 months of pretty intense training, ranging from survival skills to rope skills and navigation. So that was pretty much every Thursday for several months before we had our final survival overnighter, where we went out and we camped off of Vail Pass and had to stay very warm and overnight. It was quite the adventure.
Tell me about the survival overnighter, because a lot of people would think, nope, not for me. I don't even want to deal with it. What kind of stuff did you have to go out with, or how did you have to navigate that night? Yeah,
again, lots of layers, lots of hand warmers, hot liquids. We made a fire. We built our own shelter, with emergency tarps, and I brought my 0-degree sleeping bag because I knew I would not be a happy camper if I didn't have that with me. But yeah, we took enough to be comfortable, but also kind of roughing it, right, and some food. So yeah, it was great. It was a great bonding experience.
Great bonding experience. And then also, I'm guessing that it's also a good way to, not only test your skills, but also maybe understand a little bit of what somebody might be going through, somebody out in the field. What are the end goals of that survival overnighter?
Yeah, I think it's really a chance for us to test the equipment that we do have in our pack, right? So we know how it works, how to use it if we ever do need to use it. And yeah, like you said, maybe get ourselves in someone else's shoes if they're really struggling, they're having a rough overnight. It's definitely motivating for us to say, let's go get them out, right? That this is a really tough thing to be in.
Yeah, definitely. The practice what you preach sort of thing. Like with the go bag, yeah, you always have that around. And the overnighter, it's good to know what somebody else has been through, and also to know that you could probably hack it too. Mm-hmm. Which brings me to the question of, did you have any interest in wilderness survival or rescue before, taking the woofer? Have you always been an outdoorsy person, or is this something that's kind of like grown over time?
It's definitely grown over time. I'm kind of laughing at that question because I grew up playing indoor volleyball competitively. So I was an indoor athlete. My parents loved that because rain or shine, right, cold or nice, volleyball games were still going to be held. So I really didn't start getting outside much until I moved back to Colorado and I met my now husband, and he was starting to introduce me to everything outdoors, from hiking to backpacking to rock climbing. So it's been very interesting going from a indoor volleyball player most of my life to this outdoorsy person.
Yeah, and obviously you still enjoy it. Do you find that you're still loving it more and more, new things to find every single year?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And just, it's so exciting that the opportunities are endless. There's just so many ways to enjoy being outside.
Yeah. Now that you've been part of the rescue group, I wanted to do a little something with you, like myth-busting for rescue members. What are some preconceptions you had about the rescue team before you joined it that maybe have changed over time?
Yeah. So when I was in that wilderness first responder course, something that I asked Helen was, hey, Helen, I'm interested in this, but I'm not this super skier, right? I'm not this mountain runner, super athlete person. And she was like, you know what? But you could be a good teammate, right? That's what we need. We need people that are going to be good teammates. We don't need the ultra runners, the super athletes. We need people that are going to work well with other people and that care about giving back to the community. So that was really nice to hear. I'm like, great. I don't have to be this double black diamond expert skier to join. I can just be me.
Yeah. And on top of it, it also I think it makes it a little bit easier to use it as like a learning experience, that you don't have to be the best of the best to join this thing. It's not a professional, that's not the right way to put it. It's not a pro sports team. Let's put it that way. You don't have to enter as the best of the best at what you do.
No, and if you're willing to learn, and willing to just give things a go, and something that she said also really has stuck with me it continues to stick with me is, knowing your limits. It's really important that we know what we can and can't do, what we're comfortable with or what we're not comfortable with yet. Because if we don't know our limits, then we could become another person that needs help in the backcountry.
Yeah, you can't have the rescuers become the liability, right? Mm-hmm. You can't have them becoming the rescued. What's one or two skills that you think that you have learned since joining the team? Things that you either didn't expect to learn or things that that you just kind of realized, wow, I'm good at this?
Well, the last part, I don't know that I've realized that I'm good at this yet, but something I was not expecting to learn was to be on these motorized vehicles that we use a lot for rescues. So snowmobiles, that was super fun. We took a snowmobile course last winter, and I'm excited for the opportunity to be on one of those again. And then ATVs and UTVs this summer, that was something that I during the training had to say, you know what, I'm sorry, this is definitely uncomfortable for me, and was able to share that with the team, and they were super supportive and got me, exposure to it in a different way that was more comfortable. So just wasn't expecting, to be learning those kinds of skills. Not quite sure I'm the best at it yet or comfortable yet, but it's been great just to get the exposure to it.
Well, and it's like anything, right? You keep on doing it and you will get better over time.
Yeah.
It's just, and it helps that you found that you liked it. That it was the scary thing maybe to start with, but then as you got into it with the right people and the right teachers, it wasn't scary anymore.
Yeah, now I can definitely be a passenger in a UTV now and maybe a driver. The ATVs are still a little uncomfortable for me.
Talk about summer. So this was your first full summer on the team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talk about what you think you learned from actually going out on missions. If you can think of any specific missions that were a great learning experience for you.
Yeah. So one of the preconceived notions that I had joining the team was, okay, we've got tons of EMTs, we've got paramedics, right? We have a medical doctor on the team. I won't be the medical attendant, right, going into the field when we have a patient that needs assessment. Like, we've got people that have higher levels of training. So I never thought that I would really be that person until you get fielded and suddenly you're the person with the highest level of medical training in, Team 1, the Hasty team. And so that was really eye-opening for me, was I had the opportunity to be the medical attendant on a rescue. And so that was certainly a great learning for me, was always being prepared, right? You never know who's going to be on your team and who's going to be in the field first. And luckily, we did get a wilderness paramedic on scene after I was able to do the initial assessment. And so she was handed off to a great, person with a higher level of care. But yeah, just always being prepared to fill in where you're needed.
Had you ever had any first responder experience before? Lifeguard or, anything like that?
Yeah, I was a lifeguard. I took some lifeguarding classes in high school. But yeah, didn't do a ton of that. So this has been pretty new to me.
Yeah. How many missions do you think you were able to make it out on? Because I know that when it comes to volunteers, because you're all volunteers, so you make it when you can. You like to be available, but sometimes you're working or whatever is going on. How many do you think you were able to make it out on this year?
Gosh, that's a hard question. I honestly couldn't give you a number, but that was maybe something that I've learned too, is, you respond when you can, and sometimes you don't get fielded. Sometimes enough resources have already shown up on scene, and so you're, at command and you're ready to go in if needed, or you stay to support and just kind of wait to see how the rescue goes. There was one time where I responded and, enough resources were in the field already, but another call came in. So they said, hey, I'm glad you're here. Can you go over here now? Right. So that's also why when you respond, you show up and you're there to stay, because you never know where you're going to be needed next.
Okay. And what's your day job?
So I work for the Summit Community Care Clinic. I am a behavioral health provider there. Okay,
great. And do you find that you're able to find time to still help as much as you feel needed with the rescue group, holding down a day job?
Yeah, it's amazing. The calls come in on the weekends, during the weekdays, right, during the work week. And I have been able to respond on my off days, and I find myself too, when it is the middle of the work week and a call comes in, I'm like, oh gosh, I wish I could go. But yes, I'm still as involved as I can be.
Okay, great. Because I would say maybe that's one thing that gets a lot of people thinking like, oh, I just don't have the time. I don't think I could do it. Do you think it's easy enough to find the time?
Yeah, it's so hard, because the calls are so random. You can't predict when they're going to come through. And I'm lucky where I do have a 4-day work week. So that does give me, 3 days of availability to respond if calls are on those days. But yeah, it's definitely something I considered when I wanted to join. Was I knew that I wouldn't be able to leave work, and maybe some people have that flexibility of leaving during their work day. And so I just wanted to make that clear to the team that, hey, if you needed someone that has more flexibility, right, then that's just not my job. I can't leave in the middle of my work day.
Okay. Seems like you're already a pretty good communicator. You've got a knack for letting people know, hey, ATVs make me nervous, or hey, I've got this thing going on at work. Do you feel like that's probably one of the most important skills that anybody on rescue team can have, is being able to talk?
Absolutely, yeah, because there's so much going on a scene, whether it's, we need to communicate about this patient's medical condition, or hey, we're setting up an anchor for, for a technical rescue. Hey, I don't know how to tie this knot, right? Or I need someone to double check this knot. I mean, if you're not communicating, then a safety issue can come up. So communication is definitely key.
And when I, talk to the rescue group about rescues they've been out on and people that get themselves in sticky situations, sometimes it feels as though communication's lacking is what leads to a lot of these situations. As you've been talking to people, out in the field, lost hikers, whoever, what are some of the, like threads that everybody kind of shares? What are the things that are getting people into trouble when they're getting into trouble out there?
Man, that's a hard question. I don't know that there's just one thing. I think, people doing things that might be outside of their limits can be one of them, but a lot of times it's bad luck, right? People hiking and taking a tumble, people deep in conversation on a hike and making a wrong turn or missing a turn, and suddenly they're, miles away from where they need to be. So it certainly can be miscommunication, lack of communication, or doing something outside of someone's scope, right? But a lot of times it's just bad luck.
I think that's important to understand, too, because we've been hearing so much about, there's so many more people going in the backcountry and so many more rescues and blah, 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 blah. And I think sometimes it comes across as, well, only the idiots are getting lost out in the backcountry. That's not true.
No, not at all. It can happen to anyone. Yeah.
Let's see. I'm trying to think if I've got any more questions for you. Any other myth-busting sort of stuff that you could think of? things like preconceptions you had that were just upended, or maybe preconceptions you had that came totally true about the rescue group.
I don't know that I had a ton of expectations of what it would be like. I think something that I've been really excited by. I was kind of nervous when we joined, right? Of when we got a call, how would I respond? Would I be nervous? Would I be like, oh my gosh, it's time to respond? But I find myself being like, all right, let's do it. Like ready, energized. Our pack is already ready, and so I think that was surprising to me. Was I was kind of expecting myself to be nervous at first. Of oh my gosh, it's a call. What do we do? But since the first call we've gotten, I've been like, okay, let's go. It's time to respond, and that's been really, really fun. And I think it speaks to the team. They've made it very fun to be a part of.
Yeah, and finally, tell me a little bit about that team. Either kudos to particular people that you've found have been helpful, or maybe the team as a whole. What do you think that they've added to your enjoyment of Summit County and the outdoors and the things that you love doing, when you're not wearing the rescue hat?
Yeah, the team in general is just amazing. There are folks that have been on the team for 40 plus years to someone like me that's been on it for just over a year, and so just the depth of knowledge and the range of experience, it's been amazing to learn from everybody on the team. So yeah, the team as a whole, it's just been incredible to be on. And then it's been fun, knowing so many more people in our community, going grocery shopping and seeing someone from the group. Oh, hey, how's your day going? Or going to Lowe's. Hey, it's Home Improvement Sunday, right? And so that's just been really nice, is having just more people in our community here that I know.
Yeah, when I was talking to another member who was relatively new, he said it was a great way to, find your people. It's kind of that community of like-minded folks that, they love the outdoors, obviously, but they also love being involved with helping and learning and teaching, and all those things come together to make a good group of people for you to be part of, and for our visitors and guests and anybody else who needs the help to know that they got your back.
Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah.
Good. Well, it's great to have you in here. And when you're not ice climbing, I guess, what are the other go-to sports? Where do you spend most of your time, personal time, outdoors?
In the winter or year-round?
We'll do winter first, since it's winter season.
Yeah, so definitely looking forward to more ice climbing, skiing. I'm trying to get into more backcountry skiing. So I have my Abbey 1. I love skinning. I love going uphill. It's actually the downhill that I'm still getting used to, which is, usually the opposite for folks. So I'm like, yeah, I'll skin all day, but we have to go downhill now? Oh, gosh. And so I'm going to be doing some more backcountry skiing hopefully this winter as well. Yeah.
Well, I am hoping for a great season. I'm hoping you have a great season out there in the backcountry too. I know that I have always enjoyed the downhill more than the uphill, but I am starting to make peace with the uphill, mostly because I think that I finally upgraded the gear. That made a huge difference.
Makes a huge difference, yeah.
Yeah, I was rolling around on a snowboard that I'd split myself and added, the split gear to. And so it was fun, but after a while, the chatter that I was getting and the loose equipment, and, I knew that I could not leave the house with 2 pieces of hardware. I had to leave the house with 5 pieces of hardware because at least 3 things were guaranteed to fall off at some point. Yeah, made for some sketchy descents on some stuff that I realized, this board ain't ready for it. Luckily, I made it to the bottom. Yeah. Didn't have to call you guys.
Oh, good. Yeah, but we would have responded if you needed to.
I love hearing that. Yeah. I love hearing that. Don't worry. I don't have any plans of ever getting on that thing ever again.
Okay.
Well, Kristen, thanks again for making time to be in here. It's been great talking to all the rescue team members. And if you had any advice to somebody who wanted to join rescue team, what would be your best piece of advice to them?
And a piece of advice that was given to us, so I'll pass it forward, was, reach out to someone that who's on the team and ask to join one of our Wednesday night trainings. And it just gets you exposure to the group and some of the things that we talk about or learn on those Wednesday night trainings. And we showed up to one, and before we, expressed interest and joined. So that was really, really cool to see. So
kind of open to anybody if you,
reach out.
If you just reach out.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Good to know. Well, talking here with our rescue team about the Humans of Summit Rescue, including Kristen. Thanks again for being in here. Looking forward to, hearing more about you for years to come. I guess you will be part of the team for years to come.
I sure hope so, yeah.
Great.
Thanks so much.
Good to hear it.
Thanks for having me.